Joining early. Good morning and welcome to the Wellbeing Report Live. My name's Carly Phillips. I'm thrilled to be co-hosting this wellbeing event for you today. Might be the first one you've joined for 2026. It's certainly our first event for the year. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. I'm dialing in from the land of the Bunurong and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I'm down on the Mornington Peninsula in Victoria today. We would like to pay our respects to elders past and present. We'd also like to acknowledge the lived experience and the caring of those with mental ill health for everybody who is in this virtual room with us. Today, it is not a one-man show. I'm thrilled to have three of our team on board today, co-hosting and co-facilitating this event. I'll start with myself. I'm Carly. I'm an international wellbeing keynote speaker. I run Corporate Wellbeing Hub. It's been the love of my work life for 6 years. I'm a lead researcher for employee wellbeing for the Australian government. I'm a mental health first aider and a nutritionist. I'll hand over to Charlotte to say hello and do an intro. Morning, Charlotte.
Good morning. Hello. I am a specialist in leadership, wellbeing, and culture change. I background in psychology, but I'm a pracademic, so I've definitely been in the practical field for the last 20 years, working with leaders um, and lots of teams out there. So great pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Charlotte, and good morning, Anna.
Good morning. I am your exercise physiologist, your mindset strategist, and your breathwork practitioner. And similar to Charlotte, I've been in the trenches and in the corporate world, pracademicking and being a changeologist for 25 years.
Love it. Thank you both. And a warm welcome to everyone who is joining us today, especially if it's the first time you've joined any of our events. We welcome you along and we include everybody in this event. So feel free to speak up. If you want to take yourself off mute, put your hand up, get involved in the chat. We're happy to take questions all the way through today's event. This is our intention for the 90 minutes that we have together. We are focusing on human insight and human impact. And we're going to do that today by exploring the Workplace Wellbeing Report. So I'm going to show you the data that we have collected about workplace wellbeing. We're going to dive into what the risks and the opportunities are, and then we're going to look at the 2026 trends, the strategies, and the systems that you could potentially set up in your own workplace this year. And at the end of the session, you're going to get an email from us that has got a recording of the session. So don't worry about taking too many notes. If you want to do it later, that's okay. Or if you're a note taker like me, go for gold. So the most important thing that we want to focus on today is our humans. We have made a slight change to the way we run wellbeing programs. And what we have done that is different is we have taken an off-the-shelf program that is completely comprehensive, so it doesn't require any work from you, but we have found a way to customize the system, which is such an important and critical key success criteria for your wellbeing programs. So today we're going to launch the Human Insight, Human Impact Wellbeing System for you. But we're going to show you the insights from the Wellbeing Report first, and then you'll see some of the impact as we go into some live demonstrations that will be facilitated by both Charlotte and Anna. So you're going to get a bit of a walkthrough today of the system as well. So I hope you enjoy that. A little bit of group discussion to get the ball rolling. Feel free to jump into the chat. Let's start the conversation with, why does workplace wellbeing matter to you? If you want to take yourself off mute and have a chat, feel free to do that. Otherwise, use the chat and we will have a look at that. I'm going to open the chat box now. Why is wellbeing important to you? Adds brand value. Work is such a big part of our life. Absolutely. What else? What brings you to this event today to focus on workplace wellbeing? What has your thought process been on why this is really important to learn more about?
Anna's just nailed it there. It's more than being safe. It's about thriving at work. This is where we launch from, isn't it? When we've got a base to jump from.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Outdated ideas. Fantastic, Sharon. Thank you. We need to evolve.
Not only helps us thrive, but I find as well it's the high performance. I can be my best version of myself performance-wise as well.
Understanding your colleagues better. Fantastic. We're here together.
Yeah. Experience.
Bring joy to the day. Imagine that, some joy at work.
I love seeing that word. It's so good.
It is. It's like 1/3 of our lives work. So, we
Yeah.
may as well have some joy.
Yeah.
And how happy we are at work. Thanks everyone for jumping in and being part of it. I really appreciate your involvement. It makes it so much more enjoyable. I've just put all the different ways up on the screen that you're very welcome to interact throughout the next 90 minutes. So you can use any of those as we go through. So we're going to dive into the 2025 Workplace Wellbeing Report, which we ran in November and December of last year. I just want to acknowledge Hayley, who was the winner of the $200 healthy hamper. She was very excited. She participated in the survey and we awarded her that in December, which was a lovely end of year gift for Hayley. So I'm going to share with you some of the insights, some of the data, and we're also going to talk about some of the impact. So what meaning does this data have? Let's start with the first question. Have you ever previously organised any workplace wellbeing initiatives or events? 14% of organisations said no, breaks my heart. 59% said yes with Corporate Wellbeing Hub. 27% said yes with another provider. So the numbers were pretty strong. I've just popped a quote up on the screen from Dr. James Allen, who is the director of the at Gallagher, that is a global insurer. And I just want to read this out to you. This quote comes from the 2025 Workplace Trends Report, where they're talking about the Workplace Wellbeing Index. And he says, thanks to a combination of increased employee knowledge around wellbeing and increased media attention, employee expectations are higher. I wonder if you agree with that. And many employers are yet to meet them. Organisations are running out of time with their employees. If employees continue to feel ignored, these negative wellbeing factors will continue to be felt more widely, which can be detrimental to employers. There's still time for organisations to act, and those that do so quickly will reap the rewards. So that's Dr. James Allen. Wonder about your thoughts there. If you want to make any comments, feel free. Really starts to make us think about those of us that are still in the no bucket, that are coming into this for the first time, and perhaps those of us that are coming to explore it. Yeah, that's right, Charlotte. People will absolutely leave. So, what prompted your interest in well-being? This was another question we asked in our survey. The top answer, I'm going to be honest, it really surprised me. I'm personally passionate about well-being. That was the top answer. So these are people that within their organisation have not started on the well-being journey. And then the next one was we've had challenges with things like stress or burnout. I just want to bring your attention to other, because there's some interesting comments that were made. You'll notice that the Work Health and Safety Committee is mentioned, and there's messages there about other people making decisions. And it made me think about who the decision makers are. So I just wanted to share with you an observation that I've noticed in the market in Australia, particularly about work health and safety committees and about wellbeing committees. I've worked pretty closely with a lot of committees across different industries. And I don't know whether you've been part of committees before. I know Anna shared a story with me recently about sports committees. You kind of go along to these committees and you want to participate, and then you turn up on Saturday and it's exactly the same thing. It's a sausage sizzle and the sport, and like nothing actually changes. I've noticed exactly the same thing with these committees in our workplaces. You come along to these meetings and you go to meeting after meeting after meeting. And because not one person is accountable or able to make decisions, we actually end up with no outcome. So nothing ever changes. Is there anyone on the call who's kind of been part of that and felt that frustration before, where you've kind of put your hand up and said, I want to do something, but it's really hard to get decisions made or to actually get some traction? I want you to know that we've put a lot of thought into this problem, and that's a reason why we've started to solve this by creating the system that is done for you. So, yes, you'll need a dedicated decision maker for sure, and you may even need multiple levels of approval. We're going to look at the funding approach and the approval approach as we go through this process so that we can discuss it. And then let me just jump into chat.
We have a new phrase that we need to use. Jane's brought to us, a talk fest. It's just a talk.
This is it. So the talk fest is great, but let's get some action. Let's have a look at how we can actually do that. Thank you, Jane. What happens if we actually do nothing? I mean, this is the scary question, right? What happens if we actually do nothing? And I think you guys have mentioned a lot of that already. People start walking away. We know it's really hard to attract people. It's really hard to retain people. Not to mention how actually people actually feel when they're at work. So let's go on to the next question. Have a look. Overall, how satisfied are you with our services? So these are our existing Corporate Wellbeing Hub clients. I've just popped a couple of examples of some of our clients up on the screen. 83% extremely satisfied, 17% satisfied, and no one had ticked the unsatisfied box, which of course makes me feel very proud. Most of our clients, we're at about 50-50 now with public sector and private sector. Public sector runs across lots of local councils across Australia, up and down the eastern seaboard, universities, pretty big government departments. And then we've got private sector across pretty much every industry. So a really nice breadth of clients, which gives us really good line of sight of what is actually going on in our workplaces. How do you prefer to stay updated on the latest wellbeing research and events? I would love to hear from you on this because number one was Facebook and LinkedIn. Can you let me know where it is on those platforms you are looking for information, or is it just a scrolling and searching for particular things? I was a bit surprised Facebook was number one. I wondered whether it was particular groups people might be looking in.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, yeah.
Me too, Belinda. Is it scrolling on LinkedIn, Belinda, or is it you know when they push up the notifications and you just sort of see?
I'm going to share with you something that happened to me yesterday on LinkedIn. On the screen, I've just put the two articles that I've published this year. The first one was being human is your superpower in a world of AI. And the second one was the loneliness epidemic that you can't see. And I jumped onto LinkedIn yesterday and I had a private message from somebody. I'm going to keep them anonymous, but I'm just going to read out the note that she said, sent to me. She says, Hi, Kylie, just a note to say thank you for sharing the research article regarding loneliness. It's been some time since I read a document that I could resonate so strongly with. It's really hard to describe how I've been feeling at work, and this article articulated it so well. It may sound odd, but your article made me feel seen, even though you can't. I actually feel better knowing that I'm not alone. Now I'm wondering how many employees in my workplace feel the same. At this point, I was in tears. Certainly food for thought, and I really appreciate the practical leadership actions. They are very useful. Kind regards. So, that message went out to say to leaders, we need to act on our employees feeling lonely, we need to connect them, we need to do that. And I did not expect to get a personal message like that from someone, but it just shows you how many people are out there feeling like that. Surprising, isn't it?
It really is across the board too, because we know leadership is a lonely place in itself. And then the strongest data in leadership is actually down with our Gen Zs. They're struggling to find their feet as they grow.
For sure. I've just popped our corporate wellbeing hub tag on all of our social media there, YouTube, Facebook, Insta, and LinkedIn. If you want to follow us, you'll find some of my articles on there as well. Next one is, what is the biggest barrier to implementing wellbeing initiatives in your workplace? It's always lack of time. That always comes up. In this survey, it was also internal resources. So I've put a picture down here below. This is a group of tradies all in their orange high vis. The one in the yellow high vis at the front is me. It's about 7, I think this one was 7 a.m. We did some of them at 5 a.m. It's just an example to show when an organization says, we are maxed out, we do not have any time to pull people off the field or to go and do full day training, or we just cannot do any of that stuff. This is an example of a really creative way that this is a local council partner. So people that come in and do a lot of this physical work. They said, hey, we do toolbox talks at 6:45. Why don't you just come in and run your session? And it was really short. It was like 20 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be there. So I'm in the shed in the depot doing the talk at 6:45. It's just a way of being creative and thinking about, well, where are my people and how can I make this really accessible and easy for them? So the question I wanted to ask you is, what are the internal resources that you are lacking? If the top response was lack of time or internal resources as the biggest barrier to implementing wellbeing, we're just curious about what those internal resources are. Can you let us know? What are the biggest challenges? How do they make you feel? Why is it so hard to get wellbeing up and running?
Leadership championing. Enough people to do everything.
Yeah. It's true. Leadership really does make that huge influence, doesn't it?
Enough people to do anything reminds me of a story, Carly, when we were working in, I think we were, I can't remember where we were, but this idea that everyone's fully invested in well-being, but it literally was like pulling Velcro to get people to come off their desks and come into the session. So we say one thing, but we're really stuck to other challenges to actually turn up and do the thing that we know we need to do.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what Gina is sort of picking up on there too.
Yeah, the operational requirements, lack of budget and leadership. We're going to address that today and give you the business case and the funding sources to try and make it a bit easier for you.
Look at how well we can articulate our barriers. We're getting some lots of information here.
Get it off your chest.
Get it off your chest. Yeah.
The burden, the leadership investment. Yes. Fruit baskets and mindfulness. Yes. Okay, good. This is good. This is good information. And it's good for us to know, and this is why we do the survey every year and we do interviews with our clients and the market, is to know where the pain points are so that we can try and create tools and resources to make it easier for you. So thanks for your vulnerability and your honesty. Is there one more in there? I think that's everyone. So I'm going to hand over to Anna now as we go across to the next section and look at risks and opportunities. Thanks, Anna.
Pleasure. So I'm more of an opportunities gal, but to do this meaningfully, we need to sit in and be thoughtful about risks, because we know poor decisions come from not looking at what we've tried before and being aware of the risks that are kind of humming away behind when we are indecisive. So I want you to pause just for a second, and I don't want you to think too long. I want there be, just 2 words that pop into your mind that when you're understanding what's actually happening in your world right now, what's going on in your teams at the moment. 2 words. What feels hard or harder than it should right now? 2 words. And what have you already tried? So where are my risk people? We're looking at what we need to prioritize and what's happening if nothing changes. So when we look at employee and organizational risk, there's huge signals for change coming from the clinical world. There's a big jump in mental health appointments going through our GP services at the moment. So people are crying out for help. So 80% of our workers are encountering stress in their professional lives, and almost half of them are seeking assistance to manage that. So do we actually have that available to them when they're seeking and looking for it? Quiet quitting is out there still. So we've got this prevalence of around 67% of workers in Australia and New Zealand that are engaging in quiet quitting. And it's linked in with burnout as well, because 55% of our Australian workers are quietly cracking in the background, and that's part of this disengagement through burnout. Now, dear Carly's great with numbers, so she shared with me that the average cost of psych claims, and we know this coming from where, psychological safety has been, more closely tied in across Australia. Us in Victoria are coming a little later. But the average claim is $75,000. And then we look at the current cost of rehiring at the moment, and we're at 200% of their annual salary. So our risks are when we're caring, when we're not caring, we're not putting those strategies in place that help people feel seen and supported. And it's popping out and leaking in this concept of performance. Why aren't my people there for me? Next slide. Thanks, Carly. So you might feel like you're in a little bit of trouble, or someone on your team's in a little bit of trouble after listening to this one, because it is a little bit of MO for why this strategy of how we can help and be more effective is here, is because ad hoc was the number one reason, or the number one way people were engaging with their well-being strategies. So what ad hoc looks like is people calling on Tuesday for Are You Okay Day strategies when Are You Okay Day is on Thursday. Our mental health first aid, it's a long lead time to get that right, and people are ringing the week before. So there's a lot of reactive short-term thinking around where well-being sits into growth and performance. And to wonderful Jane's comment in the chat box before, we don't get things right when we just pop out a fruit basket and just do one session of mindfulness. So there's got to be a strategy and growth coming into play. And what would that look like in terms of opportunities when we actually sit in and go, what can we do when we nurture our people skills, our soft skills, and put wellness at the foundation of performance and growth?
Thanks, Summer. So the opposite of having an ad hoc event is having a wellbeing strategic plan or system. And the key success criteria that we know every successful wellbeing program has is that they're customized. They have really good, meaningful employee engagement, which can be creative and can be having multi-delivery options. They have a really strong ongoing communication plan, and they're measured. Now, how do I know this? I just wanted to put a little bit of my story and how we got to this key success criteria, just to explain it a little bit more. When I studied my MBA, That first photo on the left is my graduation day. I had my children in the audience at my graduation, and I could not stop crying because I was looking at their little faces watching me graduate from my MBA. It's a very heartfelt moment. What I studied at the end of my MBA was mental health strategic planning. So, how do we build really solid mental health strategic plans and wellbeing programs in workplaces that have meaningful outcomes? And when I researched all of the companies that were doing this really well, that had really strong ROI and VOI, and I'll show you that case in a minute, what they all had was really strong customization, really meaningful employee engagement, an ongoing communication plan, and they all measured. So the four key success criteria. So I have since gone on, you'll see in some of those other photos, to do a lot of keynote speaking. And I absolutely love it because you get to speak to a really big audience, sometimes a couple of hundred, sometimes a couple of thousand. And I always think if there's one person in the audience that will walk away and make a difference, I will feel like I've done my job. But the photo in the with the green paddock in the background is what I do leading research for the Australian government in primary industry. And this started to change my thinking about wellbeing because when you get funding from the government and you do research, they want so many data points. They want so much measurement. They want to know the human outcome, the business outcome. So many different things go into those reports. And what it allowed me to do over 2 to 3 years is see the journey of employees and the workforce across primary industry. So I could see them at the start, some with migrant groups coming into Australia with no nutrition background, no information about smoking, about drinking, about mental health. And along the journey, they've started to improve their health and well-being. And I had them at the end, standing up on stage with me, sharing. I now go to the gym and I now cook for my people I'm sharing with. And they've really made a huge impact to their lives. So this amount of measurement and this amount of tracking over 2 to 3 years was a really important key success criteria that I wanted to bring in to these wellbeing systems that we're now creating. The last two photos are the work that we do in workplaces. So we come out to workplaces. You can see the poor two guys in the background. I've made them stand up there with cups. I do everything interactive, so try to get everyone involved where we can on site and also online. So that's a little bit of a snapshot about the opportunity on what good can look like. I've seen this work so successfully in many, many companies, and I've now built all the key success criteria into our systems. I'm going to hand over to Charlotte now to take us through some of the 2026 trends.
Okay, so let's dive into the 2026 trends. Psychosocial safety is up there as number one. And that's no surprise. Even though these hazards have been around since the dawn of time, they are now being legislated. So, of course, people are starting to really recognize this and do what is practically possible in order to reduce and mitigate those risks. Mental health conversations as well is up there. And burnout prevention, self-care, stress reduction, mental health awareness, of course, is still something that people are really interested in and need to focus on. Managing workload, nutrition, mental health first aid training, perimenopause and menopause is something that is starting to really trend up and people are starting to notice. And luckily, we have a team who can really look into each and every one of these categories. So, I really focus on team connection, which is the psychosocial safety as a protective factor for psychosocial safety, mental health, and stress reduction and those sorts of things as well. And then, of course, we've got the lovely Anna who can really help you with your burnout prevention, self-care strategies, mental health awareness, and also perimenopause and menopause. And Carly, of course, covers all those things as well as that nutrition roadshow that she was talking about that she continues to do. So I think it's a really timely time for me to give you a bit of a live demonstration of what I might do with team connection. So I'm going to start off with a couple of quotes, and I wondered if you might raise your hands or feel free to comment or shout out. do these quotes resonate for you? Can you relate to them? So I do a number of different listening sessions with organizations where employees come and tell me about what's going on while I'm investigating psychosocial hazards. And these kind of quotes keep coming up. So hands raised if you've heard anyone say things like, or you've felt, poor relationships frustrate me. When I don't have a good working relationship with someone, I have to prove myself and stand up for myself. I don't know if you've ever kind of felt like that, but that is increasing emotional job load. Okay, so it's emotional job demand where you have to prove yourself, stand up for yourself because you just don't have that connection with someone. Or maybe you've thought about this. If I didn't have such a supportive team, I don't think I'd ever be coping with this amount of stress. And I've certainly felt that way working in professional services. If I didn't have a fantastic team around me, I would certainly be feeling that stress more. And this is a proven thing time and time again through the research that it is a real stress buffer, having those positive connections. So yeah, lots of people can really relate to that. Okay, so next slide then. I have taken this understanding and the understanding of social connection theory, and I've built a framework of the art of connection in order to help people build these quality connections. So social connection theory is about having 3 components that you must have. You must have people to connect with. They must be supportive and they must be nurturing. So what that means, and I like to use this example of a ping pong table. So a lot of organizations tend to go, cool, I'll chuck in a ping pong table in the lunchroom and we'll have quality connections. And that's not always the case, because a quality connection, you need to make sure that there are people who can play ping pong, like there are people to play. So you need to have a structure, you need to have that, and it needs to be a habit or a behavior that people do. Then you need to be able to make sure that, do you have awareness of whether you can ask someone to play? Do you have awareness of whether they're able to kind of get out of their work time or join you at lunchtime? Or do you have awareness of your own stress management? Do I have the capacity to play right now? And it's really making sure that you've attuned to somebody and you can ask them to play ping pong with you. And then, of course, when you're playing ping pong, it needs to be nurturing. Okay, it needs to be a positive interaction. Otherwise, it's very counterintuitive if it all escalates and gets a bit nasty. So those 3 components are really important, and that's what I've founded this art of connection framework on this social connection theory. So we have here tiny behaviors, and that is really feeding the structure. So really making sure that you have people who you can connect with. So making sure that you make it a tiny habit, individual in your teams and in the organization, to actually connect with people. And then, of course, you've got to make sure the responses are positive and nurturing. So in the way that you communicate with your team, you need to build psychological safety. And in my workshops, we run through a number of different psychological models that can really help establish this psychological safety, because it is paramount that we set high expectations and we keep people accountable, but we can do it in a way that fosters psychological safety in a respectful manner. So we go through that and learn all about that. Now, I'm not going to have time to go through each and every one of these components, but I will focus a little bit on the awareness section here. And I have a neurobiological approach, so I really focus on the nervous system when it comes to people attuning to what they need and what other people need in order to connect effectively. So if you're still there, Kylie's just flicking through that. There we go, that slide. So yes, I was in an LG Pro workshop last year, and a leader had this profound moment. They were saying, you know what, that's true. I remember a time when I was struggling to get all my work done and I lost it over something really small. So what this leader had recognized was that they had not realized that they were in this stress response, this kind of protection circuit in their nervous system. And they were kept going until, the cherry on top, and they lost it at something really small and actually, ruined that little connection that they had with people. The trust was gone. And so it's really important for leaders to recognize where they are, because they actually, through emotional contagion, their stress response can actually ripple effect into a team as well. So clicking on that next section, and I'll just quickly talk about the autonomic nervous system, which is, of course, without our awareness, we are scanning our environment and scanning our people, and we are thinking, is this a threat? environment, or is it safe enough? Is this person a threat, or are they safe enough? And we're doing that without our awareness. Now, that is really great, because if something is a threat, we need to act on it. But if it is in fact not a threat, if we are in a protective circuit, we are not able to connect with someone. We need to be in that social engagement system, in that protection circuit. Connection circuit, sorry, in order to connect with other people. And so what I'm going to take you through a mini little exercise today. How can we help manage our own nervous system? Well, we can stimulate our vagus nerve. I'm not going to go into what that is, but it is just so that you know, it's part of our social engagement system, and it actually the nerve runs around our eyes and our throat at the top part of the nerve, the ventral vagal part. Now we can actually tone our vagus nerve, because it's at the surface level of our skin here. So you might, and I encourage you to do this action with me. When you're feeling a bit stressed, have you ever done this? That is your intuition going, this is what I need to do. I need to stimulate my vagus nerve. And so a pressure point there is really great. So come along with me, massage your vagus nerve in those points here. And then of course you can go over your eyes like that into your temple. And another way of accessing it is here, you've got your little fingers at your pupils and your cheekbones, and then massaging it through here, spending a bit of time going around and around and massaging it here into your temples as well. Now you can do this as much as you want throughout the day. Every 5 minutes is really great. Obviously that's not going to not going to work, but 5 minutes in the morning, and then every time you can think about it. If you continue to do that, you will feel it really does help. You might not need Botox as well, because it's quite a nice little facelift to do that. Stimulating your voice is through singing, is through humming, is through chanting, or gargling water is a really great way to stimulate it there. So there's some quick and easy little exercises that you can do throughout your day. It doesn't cost anything. You've got your own fingers to massage your face, and that'll be a really great way to help manage your stress. So that's, another little exercise that we do. And of course, at the end of each workshop, flicking through the next slide, everybody does take away an action plan. And that's just a little example of what some of those team connection behaviors we might do for the individual team or organization. So thank you. That's a little live demo of what we might go through when we talk about the art of connection.
Thank you, Charlotte. I love this one. It's so good. Anything on that list that jumps out at you? Are there any there that you think, yeah, that would really make a difference to our team? I know when Charlotte goes out and presents, you can see how beautifully engaging, like Charlotte really has such a good connection with her audience. But I think what's important is at the end of every workshop and at the end of every education session, people have an action to take away. So when you can be provided with all of these actions and ways to go back to your team and actually make a difference, gosh, that makes such a big difference when you can act on that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Charlotte. I love this list. It's so good. Soup Club, I have seen in action work so beautifully.
Yes, I got it from the client you were working with. Absolutely.
So good. So good. Thank you. The next piece of data I wanted to share with you is about delivery types. So this is interesting because it's changed significantly throughout, in and out of the pandemic. Where we are landing now with delivery types that would be most engaging for your employees, according to our database, said on-demand e-learning, then they said on-site, and then they said a combination. Now, from my research and from my observations of what happens with delivery relevant to employee engagement, how many people actually turn up and how many people actually participate, by far, I would say to you, a combination of multiple delivery options is the best way to go. So a model of perhaps some e-learning on demand, some on site, some online. Of course, it's dependent on the roles and the workforce structure, but we've got to get creative and we've got to take the information to our people and make it so, so, so easy for them to access it. So this is an example that I've just put on the screen. This is a client of ours, Provision. They're an optometry association across Australia. They've been working with us for about a year or so. There's a couple of quotes there from some of their participants. The photos that you can see along the bottom is what they have delivered in terms of different delivery types. So we've done on site, you can see people sitting in a room. They actually brought members and clients and suppliers into the room, and we did a wellbeing workshop. They've done online, so that psychological safety picture is a webinar that we ran for them, an online event. They then created an on-demand wellbeing module program. So we've actually created 10 wellbeing modules for them, and we release one per month, which is lovely. So they get the whole year of fresh content, and all of their members can log on to their e-learning portal and they can get some new wellbeing information every month. And then they also invited me to come and speak as their keynote speaker at the ODMA Fair. So they wanted to show that Provision were really focused on well-being by bringing this topic to one of their conferences. So this is an example of a client who has used multiple delivery model, and it has worked very, very well for them. So I encourage you to start to think creatively about the different types of delivery that were going to work best for your workforce. We're going to move on to design. So we've looked at some data, we've looked at some insight, we've had a demonstration from Charlotte about team connection. Now we're going to look at how we actually design strategy and systems for 2026. This is the wellbeing system that we have built for you. It is called Human Insight, Human Impact Wellbeing System. It is an annual program, and it includes the 4 key success criteria. I'm sure you're not surprised to see that. So we've built that in to ensure that you get really measurable human impact, and you also get really good business outcomes. And our chosen charity partner for this program for 2026 is Oz Harvest. I'll talk a bit more about them in a moment. I want to show you what the actual system looks like and explain this to you. Feel free to jump in and ask any questions as we go through. What is really important to note is at the beginning and at the end of the system, we are measuring. So it's all about human insight. So we're doing a wellbeing benchmark data collection through a wellbeing audit, and we're sitting down in a meeting with your senior leadership team, and we're sharing the human insight and the strategy, and we're making sure everybody is aligned on the program. And then at the end of the program, we do a wellbeing pulse check, and we start to measure ROI, we start to measure outcomes for the business, we start to measure human impact. So we look at the wellbeing metrics, we see where the dial is shifting with the metrics, and we also collect quantitative data. So we've got people write in messages, they write in stories, they share some of their anecdotes, we do interviews, so we really get both the qualitative and the quantitative data. And then we sit down with your leadership team and we go through all of those outcomes for them. This is the crux of the system. We've built this system into 3 pillars: me, we, and us. So me is all about physical and mental fitness from the ground up. That is about your individual employees' well-being. We, as we heard from Charlotte, is about team belonging to boost care and connection. That is really about the team level and helping give teams and leaders the skills they need to build that connection and that sense of belonging that we know is so important. And the 3rd pillar is us, which is an organizational level. It looks at organizational health, purpose, values, and nourishing their people overall. So what I've put on the screen for you is the detail about what we actually deliver in the program. So under each pillar, you get an educational event for all employees. So we invite everyone to come along either online or on site, and we do an educational event on me. The topic is me, but the specific topic is what came out in your audit. So everybody's program is going to look completely different. This is where the customization is absolutely critical. We then do monthly coaching sessions. So they are optional online coaching sessions where people can come on. They can chat to our team of coaches like Charlotte and like Anna to talk about, it might have been burnout, it might have been nutrition, it might have been mental health, whatever the topic came up for you that we have built into the program. We then coach them in it because we don't want people to, come along to one event and go, yep, that was good. And then they leave and they never do anything. The coaching is absolutely critical to get that behavior change and to help people through some of the struggles they might have. We then supplement with 3 wellbeing modules. So you start to get a sense that we've now got on demand, we've got online, we've got options for on site, we've got multi delivery options available. The 3 wellbeing modules are e-learning. They're very short, they're about 20 minutes, and it's an opportunity for your employees to dive in and grab that information when it suits them. You get 1 nutrition roadshow for the year, which is an activation and an education on site where I come out and do a practical nutrition roadshow at your workplace. And really importantly, you get the digital communication plan because most people say to me, when they say I don't have time, they might buy a program and then they go, now I've got to go and create a communication plan. I've got to work out how to get it delivered. I've got to make everyone turn up. We actually do all of that for you. So we've really tried to take away that issue for you of no time and no resources. And we've just built everything into the system to make it really easy for you. You can see the 3 pillars have got the same systems. I've left the 1, 2, 3 empty to show you this is where the customization happens. So what comes up in your report, in your audit, we then discuss with you, we then customize the system to meet the needs and to meet that data. So what that means, I'm going to do a little walkthrough demonstration for you. Thanks, Anna, for letting us know of what happens when you actually start the system right at the very beginning. And then I'll take you through so that you can ask any questions. So when you do your wellbeing audit, I'm just going to pop a few pieces of data up on the screen. I know they're going to be tiny. I'll read them out to you. It's really just an example. You get your wellbeing report, and in your report, you will get a whole lot of stats. You will get benchmark data compared to Australia, so you know where you're at. And then you'll get your recommended system of topics and of benefits that we recommend. So a couple of examples I've got up on the screen. How many mils of soft drink, sugary drinks, or energy drinks do you drink per day? In this example, the average was 467 mils per day. We also ask questions about how much water you drink, how much alcohol you drink, how much fruit and veg you drink. So we get a really good picture on nutritional intake. We also ask about smoking. We ask about sleeping and reasons people can't sleep. And this one is a mental health question. Do you have at least one person in your life you can talk with about your mental health? In this client, there were 300 responses and 13% said no. In primary industry, I've seen that number up as high as 25, 26% of people saying they don't have one person they can talk to. So when I see a risk like that come up in the report, that goes up as a very high priority that we want to be doing mental health first aid training. We want to teach people about mental health conversations. We want to focus on team belonging so people know how to create that sense of care and connection. We also ask workplace questions. So these examples are which of the following employee benefits would be of value to you? Because I don't want you to be spending money on benefits that people don't rate. That's just wasting money. So it's really good insight to run through your EAP program, maybe your flu shots, maybe your skin checks, whatever you're offering to see where your employees see where the value is for them. Which wellbeing topics are you interested in? That gives us basically a drop-down list of priority of what they would like to learn more about. And I'll just let you know I include a question at the end, which is, do you have any ideas or suggestions for wellbeing at your workplace? And boy, have I seen some interesting responses in that. One client, I had 8 pages of ideas. And I highlighted some of them and I just gave the entire list to HR and I said, I suggest you go through this and you grab all the stuff that is free and that is low hanging fruit and you just implement that stuff straight away. Stuff that they'd never heard of before. And then we built the rest of it into a short term and a long term program. It was really, really good to have the data. And it's a very long way out from, I think we'll just talk about mental health today. People are just grabbing topics. Like when you've got the data and you can make some really solid decisions about designing your program based on the data, you will definitely get much higher employee engagement. So this is an example of what a built out program could look like. I'm going to hand over to Anna in a second to give you a bit of a demonstration of the me pillar. But when we've built your system, if in your report you can see under pillar for me, I've got burnout, I've got healthy habits, I've got mindset and mindfulness. If those three came up high in your report, we build them straight into your program under the me pillar. Under we, if team connection came up as something people need, strengths or working smarter, supporting peers in different stages of life, we build it straight into the we pillar. And maybe under us, people would request values alignment, mental health literacy, or productivity and work-life balance. So in the green circle, right at the start, once we built your system, we go to your senior leadership team and we get alignment and we show them what the system is and make sure they're really clear on what we're going to deliver. Any questions, jump into the chat, happy to answer them. We're going to dive into a demonstration. I'm going to hand over to Anna to take us through some from the me pillar. Thanks, Anna.
Hi, hello again. So our friend burnout. So I know I might have met some of you all at the Work Health and Safety show 2 years ago, and the hot topic at the Work Health and Safety show was burnout. Majority of the keynote speakers were talking about burnout in some way, shape, or form. And then last year, there we are again at the Work Health Safety show, and we are still talking about burnout. And now we have the compounding factor of, well, the undeniable cousin to burnout, which is that mental health component. So we've got this beetle in a box, and I'm imagining my beetle in this box. Let's just make sure that we're talking about the same beetle. So I'm talking about a ladybug. You might have been thinking about a cricket. We don't need to know what burnout is, but we know that as an individual dealing with burnout, has had burnout and is unconsciously scared of getting burnout again, affecting their performance, or you as the caring professional looking to energize, engage, and secure your well-rounded people, you've got decisions about burnout to do as well. So we're defining burnout right here as the feeling of completely impossible at this point, because we continue to see people with decision fatigue about what to do. So you're facing this continued churn of how to decide the way through, and you're probably thinking that this is all too big and impossible. And like wonderful Jane said, we're doing one mindfulness session, but there's no behavior change that comes with it. So when we look at burnout is treatment, and burnout is prevention. So when we look at treatment in research that is successful, burnout treatment is mindfulness-based and stress reduction strategies. It's meaningful movement, and it's a cognitive behavioral therapy strategies, and usually done in conversation is the way through. So what we end up seeing people do is they jump on those reactive topics and we have one little session, or we wait until our people are broken and burnt out and we pay to patch them up. So when we're looking at the treatment component, we have about 61% that are burnt out in industry still. And then Carly, if we click over to prevention, we have that remaining 39% that are how amazingly, treated with the same strategies. So we're looking for this almighty, amazing thing to do. But the wonderful thing is that the way through is when we do the things in the right order with the minimal dose and take the next step, the next step, the next step. So we're seeing that people are, cherry picking their moments rather than building and growing a base. So this is our way through. Thank you, Carly. So one of the hardest things about burnout, why is it so hard? Why are we still here? Is the problem is that we don't come with an operating manual. And a lot of us are still running with the manual that we got for our 1992 Corolla 20 years ago. So self-control and growth requires attention, effort, and change is hard. We as humans, it is unnatural to us. We're actually at the nervous system level geared to not change. But when we look at what we've got to do to get through burnout, it requires change. So the challenge that we have is that burnout is actually a little bit of a label around personal failure. It's the sense that what is wrong with me? I chose this job myself. I thought I was up for it. We tend to lay burden on ourselves because this person's doing well, or if I just do a little bit more, and it gets in this messy soup of the internal dialogue that it is to be a human. The problem is burnout doesn't announce itself. It accumulates quite quietly, and we feel quite personally offended by ourselves when we're not feeling like we're making the grade. Thanks, Carly. So the beautiful thing about all those internal dialogues that we run around with, that we're not quite sure, what it looks like, is that we are all operating with this wonderful internal radio that has the same concepts running through it as each other, this messy soup. So 47% of our time, our mind is wandering. And it's usually coming up with unhappy or negative biases. And these are things that actually protect us. But if we're not aware of them, we end up in the 6,000 thoughts we have a day, 75% of them being negative, and they're on loops. So if we're intending to create change in our operating manual for the Corolla to our fancy new electronic interface car, we need to make some adjustments to what's happening in that internal dialogue. And then kind of fun, see if you can pop thought worms into a conversation today. This is a new phrase since 2020 when they realized that we have 6.5 thought transitions within a minute. So how are we training our focus? How are we having a relationship with our internal dialogue so we actually do the things that we say we're going to do rather than convincing ourselves by our old operating manual that we're just going to stick to the same thing? So let's together practice a concept called cognitive flexibility through metacognition. So if you're feeling okay at the moment, to just gently close your eyes or look down to your table where there's no distractions. And I just want to talk you through this idea. I'm sure you've all heard of the phrase, control your controllables. Yes, 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 yes. But my sense is that you can list your controllables, but your ability to operationally have the skills to make meaningful choices around that meaningful controllables is around what relationship we have with our thoughts. Which thoughts boss us around, which thoughts are helpful, and which ones are untrue. Because that's really what we're doing here. As humans, we have thoughts constantly, and are they helpful, and are they true? So as you're sitting there, you've been listening to me, but inevitably thoughts have popped into your mind. because you're human. So adjust yourself a tiny bit if you need. Take an extra breath. I'm going to ask you to visualize yourself picking up a picnic chair as you walk along some beautiful grass at the top of a slight hill, as you're walking towards a parade. You've been planning to be at this parade for a couple of weeks. You're setting yourself up near your friends. You can see them in the distance. You're walking across, you can hear the hustle and bustle to your left of the parade about to start. You sit in the chair, you feel that beautiful touch of your favorite picnic chair, and you relax in it as you look down to the parade, and it starts to walk across. You're seeing it from your left, moving across to your right. And now you notice that the placards that they're holding are blank. In a minute, I'm going to be quiet, and you are going to notice the thoughts that come to your mind. You will observe them, and then you will project them as words, sentences, letters, images, general feelings or shapes that come with those thoughts, and you'll project them out onto the placards and allow them to walk away naturally with the parade to the right. At this point, some of you will be thinking, I wonder if she'll tell us when to stop. Notice that that is a thought, and also project it away. I wonder if I'm doing this right. A judgment thought projected onto a placard. Another couple of seconds to just be the observer of your thoughts. Well done. I invite you to try and remember something that's in front of you, and then gently open your eyes and check if that's still there. Thanks, Carly, for the slide. Thank you for trusting me for a moment, or being willing to go into your mind. We do this because we need to teach, regulate, and filter what's actually going on in our mind. We heard that from Charlotte's client, who wasn't aware of the levels of stress building up until he blew. So the cost of trying to change the music in your new electronic interface car with the manual of your 1992 Corolla, we need to continue to update our operating manuals. So how you felt just now, that beautiful thing of being able to use and exercise to develop a skill, is part of what we do in this. How do we move in and through a place of burnout? So wonderfully, treatment and prevention are the same things in burnout. So we were 100% helping all of your people. We're not revisiting decisions. We're not second guessing ourselves, walking away from meetings without making your thoughts heard. We're home at the dinner table, and we're able to be with our kids rather than still in work in our mind. We're able to recognize when our thoughts are taking over our choices, and they're not always helpful and they're not always true. So being present when we're here to focus. So this is one of the tools that we bring to the program that is part of this approach of the right tools applied in the right way are both prevention and treatment, and applied and built and developed. This is our way through.
Thank you, Anna. I'm just zenned out. I can't really talk right now. It's pretty powerful. There is something about your voice and your words combined that can just take you to that place when you're really in the middle of something else. I wonder if other people on the call felt that as well. And whether you're thinking, actually, there's people in my team, people at my workplace who are really struggling, who would really benefit from going through exercises like this with Anna. Thank you. I really enjoyed that. So did Deanne, said it was amazing. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to bring this all together now. We're going to go into the logistical stuff. Now that we've had the joy of learning about team belonging with Charlotte and about burnout with Anna, and you've experienced some of that, I want to talk about the way forward in terms of a business case and in terms of funding sources. How do you actually take this system back to your workplace and get it across the line? How do you deliver and how do you implement this so that you can really make a big difference to the well-being of your peers and your colleagues at work? I'm going to start with the business case, which is very, very strong. So the Human Insight, Human Impact System cost is $39,500. What we include in the system is $5,900 worth of bonuses that you do not pay for. So that includes the digital communication plan we run all year for you at no cost. We do the senior leadership alignment meeting at no cost. And you also get a corporate wellbeing enrollment. The new course in pink is called Rock Solid Wellbeing, and it kicks off on the 10th of March. So we've got a month or so. We're about to start the next cohort. So the total value of the program is $45,400. The cost to you is $39,500. Of that, we donate $100 to Oz Harvest. I'm going to talk about them in a minute and why we've chosen them as our charity partner for this year. Now, I've just put up on the screen down the bottom, this is kind of the money shot that you might want to take back to your workplace. This is the really solid ROI, VOI, and legal obligations that have been very thoroughly researched over years that show you what happens when you invest, let's call it $40,000 into a program, what you get back. So a minimum of $2.30 for every $1 that you invest comes back to you as your return on investment. That is measured through absenteeism, through productivity, through reduced claims, through a whole lot of things that are really easy to measure. It's a data number. Also, increased productivity, profitability, retention rates, presenteeism, and absenteeism costs fall. Now, the legal obligations for well-being are that every workplace must create a physically and mentally safe workplace. And aren't we good at the physically safe? We do that really well in Australia now in most cases. Some industries have a long way to go with the mentally safe piece, but it is a legal obligation. We also need to make reasonable adjustments for any employee with a mental illness. Anyone in HR will be doing that stuff all day, every day. And we need to maintain the privacy of an employee with a mental health condition. And then you have the VOI, which is great, but harder to measure. So improved performance, boosted morale, positivity, motivation, attracting high quality candidates. We heard you say at the beginning, this expectation and losing people. People actually need and want well-being as a benefit, as a reason to come and work for you now. It also reduces conflict, grievances, and injury rates, and it improves overall performance. So the business case is really strong. This is something that I include in our prospectus. So what I will send you if you want to order it, I'll put the QR code up in a moment, is the prospectus showing you the whole wellbeing system. And I put this business case in here so that you can go to your finance director or your leaders or your CEO and say, actually, this is what's going to happen. These are the business outcomes when we invest in the wellbeing of our people. Thanks, Anna. Your burnout stat, do you want to share that?
Yeah, apologies, I forgot to pop it in there, but burnouts, employees are 63% more likely to take sick days and 2.6 times more likely to be actively seeking a different role.
Yeah, which is such a good example of what happens when you do nothing, when you
Yeah.
don't support people with burnout, but in wellbeing overall. Thank you. So the wellbeing budget, this is the tricky bit. This is the stumbling block that people get to. They say, I can't actually get the funding. So in our survey, the number one place people were getting their wellbeing budget from was from their HR budget, followed by the work health and safety budget and the L&D budget. And then some companies had a dedicated wellbeing budget, and some were getting it from insurance rebates or from grants. I'm going to show you how to do that in 1 minute. The other thing that was interesting is most of the wellbeing budgets ran in a financial year. So this might be the case for you that you are thinking about something to start in the 1st of July, in which case you probably want to be submitting proposals soonish, like March, April, so that it can get locked into next year's budget. Or if you run on a calendar year, probably around about now is a good time to start. You probably want to be launching something in February or very early March. The random investment, I read into the data and it was all just ad hoc. I just do it whenever money becomes available. It was all completely random, which I found quite amusing. So I want to share with you 3 places you can find your funding from. Number one is rebates. So corporate health and wellbeing rebates come from insurance companies. So if your workplace is insured with a big insurer, they often give rebates that are completely dedicated to wellbeing. Sometimes those rebates go missing and they end up in different departments in organizations. And I say to them, go and find that money because it is actually dedicated to employee wellbeing. You can also get grants from Safe Work Australia, Beyond Blue, Black Dog Institute. A lot of local chambers of commerce are now doing grants as well. So you might want to have a look in your local community, local councils, and see if there are grants available, particularly for mental health and for wellbeing programs. And you can get it from your internal budget, making sure you present the business risks and the business case. It's absolutely critical that you do that. I say that, it sounds so obvious, but I say that because so many people say to me, oh, I didn't get any funding this year. And I said, how did you pitch it and what did you ask for? And they said, oh, I was just waiting for it to come to me. I'll tell you right now, it's never going to come if you do that. You have to be able to pitch your business case and show what you want for your people and show the business case and the ROI to be able to secure that funding. So this is why I'm giving you all of this information to make it really easy for you to get it across the line in your workplace. I want to talk about community impact. This is a really important part of the work that we do here at Corporate Wellbeing Hub. You get 2 things included when you purchase the system. One is rock solid wellbeing. You get 1 seat, so 1 employee from your organization can come and join us. It is a 6-week online course. We include wellbeing workshops, on-demand e-learning, interactive peer support, and a certificate of completion. The purpose of the course is to build wellbeing strategies for you, that should say you, and your community. We're starting on the 10th of March, so you get a free seat to that. And we donate $100 to our charity partner, Oz Harvest, this year. $100 at Oz Harvest actually provides 200 meals to someone who needs it most. So Oz Harvest are working hard to get nourishing food to people who need it most. Their slogan is Nourish Our Country, which I just love. It's very well aligned to my values as a nutritionist, and we're very happy to donate that money for every system that we deliver in workplaces across Australia. Any questions or comments about the system? This is a really good time to do that. I've allowed a little bit of free time at the end, so feel free to take yourself off mute or pop them into the chat. I do want to show you one more thing before we finish for today, but I'll just give you time to type any questions in if you have them now about anything we've talked about today, the Wellbeing Report, Charlotte or Anna's presentations, maybe the Wellbeing System. Feel free to do that.
I wanted to quickly say thank you for those, who've really shared the experiences that they're having. I think we can all learn and grow together. We can all make this change together, and it's really important that we can share all these experiences, because it does make it richer for, how we can do better as humans. So thank you very much, everyone, for sharing.
So true. Thank you, Charlotte.
I'm just reading Jane's comment, and it's a really important point, because it's I think we do sometimes feel, as we said at the start, the heaviness is that it's a kind of the snake that eats itself, the choices that I make, and then how I end up in these places, and then there's huge organizational stuff on top of that. So that's why the system is like it is. So there's the personal responsibility, which is not just burnout, that's just health in general. Did I go to the gym today when I said I was going to go? Did I do, it's all of these things, like, how do I look after myself when I'm really honest to myself, rather than like feeling like you're in trouble? It's the skills that help us grow and shift that 1%. But then absolutely there's this huge thing going on, and psych safety is part of it. And everyone's still figuring that out as well. So needing that support in those bigger conversations as well. And we do see wonderful, Barbara, you shared with us your challenge with a really tricky environment in your burnout journey. And sadly that had no support, and that looked like moving to do that thing that was most important for your health. It's really complicated. Jane, you've made a good point. It's not just the individual, it's big. It has lots of elements to it of how we can care for ourselves as an individual, managing stress.
Thank you. Before we wrap up, I just want to show you, we talked about measurement and we talked about collecting data all the way along. All of these green triangles show you every single point that we collect data all the way along the entire system. There's actually 18 points of data collection. So not just at the audit, but every single event, coaching session, module, we are collecting feedback, we are collecting wellbeing metrics, which gives you a really solid report at the end of the year that we can have a conversation with your leaders about. But it also gives us a way to measure both qualitative, so what is the impact to your employees? What do they feel? What are the stories that are coming out of this? And quantitative data. So we'll be able to see wellbeing metrics, we'll be able to see ratings, we'll be able to see ROI in a dollar value. It's really nice to be able to measure and to be able to show at the end of the year, this is what we did, this is the human impact, and these are the business outcomes as well. I'm going to pop up on the screen a QR code. This is generally what happens when you decide you want to go ahead with something. You would typically order a prospectus, probably need to email or have a conversation with a senior leader, or perhaps that's you, and then sit down and have a decision makers meeting and kind of nut out the pros and cons to make sure that's a good fit for you. So I just wanted to offer for you, number one, go ahead and order the prospectus, then you've got it in your inbox. But secondly, we're very happy to come and sit down and have conversations around that table with your decision makers. So sometimes there might be a C-suite meeting or a senior leadership meeting, and maybe you're not feeling confident to do that. We're more than happy to either go to the meeting on your behalf or sit side by side with you so that we can answer all of the questions if your organization is trying to make a decision about whether to go forward or not. I've just popped the dates in here for either calendar year or for financial year as to when you want to be thinking about submitting your proposals. This is a photo of our entire team here at Corporate Wellbeing Hub. These are our expert facilitators. Something I absolutely love about our team, and you've probably experienced that today, is that every coach and facilitator has their own deep expertise and they can bring that into the portfolio. So when we are customizing whatever comes up in your report and we are building into your system, I've got 10 facilitators and coaches and trainers that we can call up to your system to make sure we've got the right coach for your system. So it's lovely to have everyone here in the team. This is my final slide. Go ahead and order free resources if you'd like to do that. Let me jump into the chat. I think there's a few extra comments in there. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Deanne. Great. Deanne says, fabulous program. Congrats on making it, and the success you've had reflects the value it can add. Thank you. That's so lovely. I want to thank everyone for joining us today and specifically for your interactions. As Charlotte said, it's nice to have that vulnerability, but it's lovely to have that human connection even when we're in a virtual room today. When you click on your link to order your free resources there is an option there to book a strategy call with me. So my calendar is now open to do that. And that is an opportunity for you to come and ask questions. If you need to bring, excuse me, if you need to bring a colleague along to the meeting, feel free to do that. We can have a chat about what your organization needs. You can ask questions about the system and really make sure it's a clear decision for you. I've got the dates up here, so we're ready to launch any calendar year programs now, starting in February or early March, or 1st of July if your calendar year. My voice is not going to make it to 11:30. I just want to finish by saying thank you for coming. We would absolutely love to partner with you and help protect your humans and your business from any of that risk. And we just want to lift their health and well-being to another level. We really want to see this human impact and these business outcomes. I want to give you a chance to ask any questions. We've got 5 minutes remaining. Charlotte and Anna and I will stay on the line. Feel free to take yourself off mute or pop any questions into the chat and we will answer those for you. Thanks everyone for being part of our first 2026 event for today. It was lovely to have you here. I want to thank you for being here and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next one.